And of course, we'd be silly not to acknowledge the elephant in the room, which is obviously there are commercial interests at play here, and healthy competition, of course, among suppliers. But we had a good audience question here from Moses. How do you think we can foster industry acceptance and buy-in for harmonization? And how do we get different companies to work together to standardize their technologies? Yes, what incentives from regulators or economic pressures or even operational drives can players in the space use to put that pressure on to still maintain propriety, but essentially come up with a standardization for at least function in the eyes of regulators to both balance, I suppose, competition with standards and compliance?
Well, I think you make it, I think the standard, to Mark's point earlier, standardization begins at home for the end user community, which is to say you reward suppliers that are open and facilitate the establishment of standards and interoperability within your own facility. I would be, the demonstration of equivalency is not going to be a regulatory thing, right? The supply base does not make regulated products. The end user base makes regulated products. It's up to the end user to declare equivalency for their own needs according to the risk assessment and their application and their user requirements. So, I mean, we're better today than we were 20 years ago. We used to compete on extractables. Now everybody as of May of next year, everyone will be supplying 665 data packages for, that's USB 665 a standard, the first USB standard written specifically for single-use manufacturing systems. And the supply base will eventually have extractables packages that fulfill the requirements of 665 for everything. It's going to take some time, and there may be some bits that are uncovered, and they'll have to be risk assessed away because they're expected contribution. So that's one piece that literally it was back in the early 2000s, it was an arms race whose extractables guide was thicker than the other guys, right? Well, we've kind of gotten past that. And Mark, one thing I would, I know you didn't make it, and Frank, you weren't there either. BPSA Summit, we talked about specifically this issue with regard to USP 87, 88, and the evolving biocompatibility standards or bioreactivity. And I was on the panel, our position paper from the Scientific Advisory Council of the BPSA is 87 cytotoxicity in vitro is the baseline for single use. 665 is going to be required anyway, and you can go do your tox assessment based on your 665 data. Doing 88 and sacrificing a bunch of animals that has not brought any value to our industry really ever. It's a misapplied standard. It's not written for manufacturing systems. It just doesn't make sense. So, this is something, and class six goes away. That'll be lost from our vocabulary in a couple of years. So, we as an industry group, the Bioprocess Systems Alliance, is taking a position to try to to get harmonization on this topic from end users asking for the data and from preventing an arms race of non-value added claims by who's got more stuff in their validation guide or on their cert. And it just, at least the folks represented in the room, and we got a resounding response from the audience. Yeah, this is not value added. We're not competing well by having higher and higher claims. And so I hope that is at least an example that the industry's headed in the right direction, but it takes work and and sometimes the guy staring back at you in the mirror is the person to ask to help do some of the work.
Bummer. Frank, Mark, any closing points for our audience? Optimism, pessimism, advice, meditations.
I'm optimistic. I see that we've made a lot of progress. The topic Paul just talked about was one of the very first questions I asked 15, 16 years ago, and now there's finally something has happened. I can't say I did much to move it in that direction, but I'm glad others did. There were a lot of great questions below. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them. The one about sensors, yes, we do need more single-use sensors. There's a lot, I think, a lot of opportunity there. And there was a comment about how do suppliers standardize if they also have to differentiate. I think you standardize at the basics, and then you go ahead and add bells and whistles. But basics, I think we have to align it. Sorry, that was real quick. But yeah, thanks, Tyler, for
Appreciate it, Mark.
Frank, you have any thoughts? I know we're at time.
I'm definitely optimistic. I think, approach it like you do anything else in your process design with, bracketing risk assessment and, consider alternatives in all aspects of supply chain.
Yeah. Frank, Mark, Paul, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insights with the audience. To the audience, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you spending your time here. And I'd also like to thank the sponsor for today's event, CPC. Everyone have a great day, and we'll see you next time.